And welcome into another edition of the Football Friday Show. Yes, we are doing this again, another late night here. Josh Hennig live in the 97.3 ESPN studios. We are not going to make a habit of this. I promise you all that. I had to go to a meeting today because we signed up a new client for Hanging with Hennig on Saturdays on 97.3 ESPN. And as some of you may know, between taking care of the radio station and being the producer for Mike Gill and the Sports Bash, I have to do all my own work for my own radio show. So, and until things change, we are just going to do the best we can managing. Shout out to Art Masker. Of course, he is the owner of Work of Art Construction. They're going to help your home become a work of art. Give them a call, 609-788-4271 for Work of Art Construction, from kitchen remodels to bathroom refurbishments to decks, doors, whatever you need done. So we're glad to have them on board. Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. So here's the deal. We are going to try to rapid fire through all the picks and everything as much as we can, so I can go home and get some sleep tonight, because we got to be tomorrow at Tropicana Atlantic City, the Gridiron Pit, powered by Caesars Sportsbook, a high-energy fan zone where blackjack meets big screens, bold bites, and big wins. We will be there tomorrow, 12 to 3 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN FM, right here on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig in the Dr. Squatch. There it is. I almost had it. I had to sign right. I'm tired. All right. But we will be at the Tropicana Gridiron Pit tomorrow. Mike Carlin will be joining me tomorrow. We will have prizes and giveaways. If you come out and join us, you sign up for the contest giveaways. We'll do giveaways at the end of the show. We will have Caden Steele, the Eagles writer for NG.com. We will have Justin Figueroa, the undefeated champion from Atlantic City. He will be joining us on site. Also, of course, our weekly conversation with Andy McNamara. So that'll be all tomorrow at the Gridiron Pit, where you can play your hand, catch every snap, and indulge in Tailgate-inspired food and drinks, and spin the big wheel of prizes every Saturday and Sunday throughout the football season. Gridiron Pit, where the thrill of the game meets the rush of the table, located in the cashier's cage. Learn more at Caesars.com. Must be 21 or older. Know when to stop before you start. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Without further ado, like I said, I know it's very, very, very late night to be jumping on here. Moving forward, we will not be doing it this late. So the only night coming up that I'm still trying to figure out when we're going to do the show is going to be November 28th, because we have a special announcement for Black Friday that I'll be getting to coming up on 97.3 ESPN. But right now, we got to get to the picks. That's what you guys are here for. That's what you come tune in since 2018. As you guys, for those who know, for those who don't know, since 2018, I've been doing picks on 97.3 ESPN when sports betting became legal in New Jersey. And we don't do it like everybody else. This is about combining the numbers with the eye test. This is about trying to find a middle ground to educate all of you on football, sports betting, and the whole 9 yards. And I know that the news has been focused on some stuff when it comes to the gambling world, and I just want to point out really quick before we get to the picks. This is very important to me, and I really had a chance to talk about this. What you saw on the news this week with Damon Jones, with Terry Rozier, with Chauncey Billups and others, the 34 people altogether who were arrested by the FBI, what those entailed was illegal activities. It involved money laundering. It involved manipulation of markets. It involved insider trading. It involved a lot of stuff that is not legal, that is not okay. And it was pretty much predatory activities. And that is not a reflection of the NBA. That is not a reflection of the sports world in general. If you want to say that that is a a consequence of legalizing sports betting, I would just say that people are going to do illegal things, whether it's legal or not. You know, prohibition didn't stop people from drinking. They just did it more in secret, and more people died of, alcohol poisoning. There were no regulations on alcohol. So I would just say that we can't treat those 34 people like they symbolize, 3.4 billion people, basically. So I'll leave it at that. All right, here's how we did last week. In college football, we went 8-4, so our second straight big winning week in college football. We also had another winning week in the NFL. We went 4-3, barely keeping that ahead. On the year right now in the college football picks, we are 63.9%. In the NFL, we are 57.7%, so we do have to do some work to get back to our averages. Our averages since 2018 for college football, our average is 65%. For the NFL, it's 63%. So that's according to the numbers back to 2018. So, all right, let's get to the games. Enough procrastinating, enough of me rambling about other things that many of you don't care about. And I would just say thanks to all of you who tune in each week. I know not everyone has stayed locked in every single week, but we do try to do our best in bringing you the picks each and every week here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig and on X at Josh Hennig. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. I would greatly appreciate any support you guys give. It's greatly appreciated, and it's part of what we're trying to build here. It's part of what we're trying to do here for the platforms. We're trying to build something here, and I appreciate everybody who supports it. Okay. Without further delay, because we've been streaming now for about 9 minutes, let's get to the picks. As we always, we start in college football. I'm going to start with USF at Memphis. And I'm starting with this game purely because of the fact that I think USF is one of the most interesting teams in college football. They have scored 48 points or more in 4 straight games. Byron Brown, he's not going to win a Heisman, but he should be at least in the conversation. The young man has 16 passing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns. He has been a dynamic force of nature. USF has given a lot of teams a huge scare this year. And I think USF's the team that you got to keep an eye on the rest of the year. They're playing a Memphis team that is averaging 40.6 points per game at home this year. So it's USF at Memphis. I know there are some people who are saying take USF in this matchup. I don't love the number for that. My projected score for this game is 31-30 USF. So I don't like USF to cover the spread in this game because they are a road favorite. So I am taking the over 58.5. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. USF, not a great defense, very good offense. Again, Byron Brown, this young man is an incredible athlete. He's a dynamic quarterback. If you haven't watched him play, you got to watch him play this year at some point. He is having an incredible year, and I think that this USF-Memphis game is going to be a lot of fun to watch. A lot of points on the board. Again, over 58.5 is the pick. A huge part of it is Brown, the quarterback for USF, but it's also Memphis. Memphis is averaging over 40 points a game at home. So I anticipate it's going to be a high-scoring game overall. So that's why I'm going over 58.5. Let's go over to the ACC. We're going from the American to the ACC conference, right? Virginia at North Carolina. My projected score for this game is 33-22, which covers the 10.5 point spread for Virginia. Here's why. Bill Belichick's Tar Heels football team, they just haven't done enough to win. Not enough talent to win games. They just don't. And I think Belichick is a huge problem right now. And I think part of that problem has to do with the reality that I think Belichick is learning the hard way, shall we say, that getting talent in college football is a lot harder than people think it is. And now this is a Tar Heels football team that has lost 3 straight games. The teams on paper, you could have argued North Carolina maybe could have beaten Central Florida, or they could have been more competitive with Clemson, or they could have beaten Cal. By the way, Cal right now is in double overtime with Virginia Tech right now. Gives you an idea of what we're talking about here. And so Cal, UCF, you could have beaten them. Clemson, you could have been more competitive with them. But on the field, North Carolina looks like they don't even belong with those teams. And that's where the Cavaliers come into the conversation. The Virginia Cavaliers football team has won 5 straight games. 2 of those games against some of the best teams in the conference, Florida State and Louisville. But our offense is averaging 40 points a game. North Carolina, yes, a Bill Belichick coach team is allowing 34 or more points in 3 of their 4 losses this year. I like Virginia to cover the spread. I like them to win very comfortably. 10.5 points feels like a number that Virginia should cover. And, Belichick says that he's not going to leave. He says that he's committed. I'm personally not convinced of that. I have a lot of questions about what Belichick's plan is moving forward. I don't know if he has one, to be honest with you. So, meanwhile, Virginia, they have done a great job of rebuilding that program. And I think that we got to give credit where credit's due. I think the credit is due to Virginia for building smartly and not trying to do any quick fixes. All right. Let's go to the SEC. The next 3 games are all in the SEC. Let's start with Ole Miss at Oklahoma. This is one of those games I'm very conflicted on because I want to pick Ole Miss to cover the 5.5 points on the road, but I feel more comfortable with the underplay in this game. My projected score is 25-23 Ole Miss. So, in theory, under my formula, Ole Miss should easily win this game, but not easily, but they should win the game. But I think what's a bigger story in this game is the underplay. Whether it's 52.5, 51.5, it's 52.5 at Caesar Sportsbook, which is the official sportsbook of Hanging with Hennig and me, Josh Hennig, here on 97.3 ESPN on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig, Caesar Sportsbook, the only sportsbook app offering you Caesar's rewards. The Oklahoma Sooners have not been involved in many high-scoring games this year. The total has hit the under in 5 straight games, while Ole Miss has hit the under total in their previous 4 games before their 43-35 loss to Georgia. Oklahoma's offense is nowhere as good as Georgia. And I know that, if we are taking the numbers and the analytics and the prospect rankings and all that stuff, that a team like Ole Miss doesn't have a great defense. But they have a good enough defense. They've limited LSU. They've limited Washington State. They've made teams that could score more points look like they can't score any points at times. This is an Oklahoma team that's been unimpressive, and I think Mateer came back way too early from that hand injury. It seems like it's taking a lot longer than he expected for him to get back to full strength. I expect this to be a low-scoring game, again, 25-23. That's why I'm taking the under 52.5, 51.5, depending on what sportsbook you use. But that's the number I'm looking at. I'm looking at the under. I think Ole Miss will win the game, but if they don't, it's not the end of the world. That's kind of how I look at it. All right. Staying in the SEC, Alabama at South Carolina. The Crimson Tide are averaging just 22.6 points per game on the road compared to 44.5 points at home. That's a 22-point difference for Alabama. Alabama, superstar offense at home. On the road, average at best. Now, is that because of the quarterback? Is that because of the offensive line? Is that the coaching? Is that just who they played this year? You can argue whatever answer you want on that. But I tend to go with the idea that I think Alabama is still trying to find more consistency. So I look at this game at South Carolina. So we already know Alabama, they're scoring half the points on the road than at home. South Carolina's offense struggled a lot this year. They've been one of the most disappointing teams of all of college football. Lenore Sellers is supposed to be a preseason Heisman Trophy candidate, while their offense is averaging 15.8 points per game in their last 5. 15.8 points per game. It's nowhere close to what you should be if you are supposed to be a contender. And obviously, they're not a contender. South Carolina, incredibly disappointing year, but the Gamecock fans will be loud and they will be disruptive tomorrow at South Carolina. Alabama's offense is going to have some issues tomorrow. And I don't think the South Carolina crowd is going to be enough to swing the game into the favor of the home team, but I think it will be enough to disrupt and slow down quarterback Ty Simpson and the Alabama offense, which is why I have Alabama. My projected score for them is 27-16. I think Alabama wins the game, but I think the game is going under 47.5 points. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game for either team. I think both teams are going to have struggles at times scoring. Alabama, they are playing at a high level right now, but on the road, their offense is meh. It's average. Mediocre. At home, it's amazing. It's among the best in college football, but on the road, not so much. Like I said, South Carolina can't really score at all. So they're struggling a ton. So give me the under 47.5 for that game. Staying in the SEC, Missouri at Vanderbilt. I got Vanderbilt covering the 2.5 points for the second straight week. I got Vanderbilt covering. My projected score for this game is Vanderbilt to win 31-28. Missouri is averaging 25.3 points per game and allowing 21 points per game. That's a 4-point differential in terms of scoring versus allowing, which goes to show you that Missouri is not that good against SEC teams. Yes, against SEC teams, they are allowing 21 points a game. They're only scoring 25 points per game. Now, Missouri, who remember started the year 5 straight games at home this year. Don't know how, but it happened. Now they're going on the road to a Vanderbilt team that is averaging 50 points per game at home. 50. Vanderbilt is also 5-2 against the spread this year. I think I think Vanderbilt is playing at a high level. Diego Pavia, he's never going to win a Heisman, but he definitely should be in consideration for Offensive Player of the Year kind of awards. Excuse me. The problem for Pavia is that he's in a conference with a ton of other great quarterbacks. So I tend to think that Vanderbilt, the recognition and the credit they deserve, but I'm looking at Missouri, Vanderbilt. I think Missouri's going to come up short in this game. I think Missouri will score some points, but I don't think there'll be enough to score to actually win the game. I got Vanderbilt to cover the 2.5 point spread. So we're going with that. 2 more college games to get to before we get to the NFL. Here on Football Friday show presented by Tropicana and the Gridiron Pit, the ultimate watch and wager experience. We will be there for Hanging with Hennig tomorrow, 12 to 3 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN FM, streaming live on YouTube and X in the Dr. Squatch virtual studios. Just follow at Josh Hennig on YouTube, at Josh Hennig on X. All right. Let's go with BYU at Iowa State. So I got BYU. My projected score and my formula for this game was BYU to win 27-22, which means BYU doesn't just cover the spread, they win outright. Here's why. Even though Iowa State started the year 5-0, they won 3 of those 5 games by single digits. Iowa State was not necessarily dominating anybody this year. And now they're coming into this game having lost 2 straight and face an undefeated BYU team that has scored at least 24 points in all 7 games this year. The only question for this game for me coming into it is the Cougars defense, who allowed West Virginia to score 24 points and Arizona to score 27. Can they slow down? Can they hold Rocco Beck, the quarterback from Iowa State? Can they do it? Because Beck not having the year that he hoped for, but he's still having a good year, right? 9 passing touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns, an offense that is averaging 29 points per game. That's going to be the only question for BYU in this game. Is BYU's defense going to be able to make this a lower scoring game? Because I don't know if BYU is equipped to win a shootout. I think they need to get a lead early, and they need to kind of grind Iowa State a little bit in order to win this game. That's why my projected score for this game, if BYU wins, is 27-22. But if Iowa State makes this a shootout, it's going to be tough. I still think BYU can win the game. I think BYU, I told you guys for the year right here on my YouTube channel, at Josh Hennig on X. I told you guys for the year, Bear Brockmeyer is legit. And I think that this is a young man who's just now learning about how to play the quarterback position at a high level. And he's only going to get better. Like I said, the question for Brigham Young University is their defense. It's not their offense. I think their offense is going to be fine. It's what are they going to do with Rocco Beck, the quarterback for Iowa State, and an offense that's averaging 29 points per game. That's going to be the real question. I think in the end, BYU does cover the 2.5 points. Final college football game, we are going to stick in the Big 12. And this is a game, if you would have asked me before the year, what game am I picking, right? If you would have asked me about, if I was looking ahead to the schedule and I was picking games, this would not be a game I would have picked. But the unique nature of the college football season has created a dynamic where my final college football pick is going to be TCU at WVU. Yes, Texas Christian Horned Frogs at the West Virginia Mountaineers is the game we are picking. And I'm not going to let social media and emotional reactions influence my pick here. I'm going West Virginia to cover the 15.5 points, and here's why. West Virginia is 2-1 against the spread at home. They are a much better home team than road team this year. 3 of the last 4 losses for WVU are all on the road. So, again, how many times have we talked about over the years, me, Josh Hennig, on 97.3 ESPN FM, streaming live on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Thanks to all of you for jumping on board the show. I've said numerous times over the years, home teams create a dynamic that it's hard to go on the road. When TCU went on the road at North Carolina this year, they did not have to experience a difficult or tough environment. They just didn't. So I'm not going to sit here and act like TCU has dealt with a lot of difficult environments. And even with that said, North Carolina is the only road game they won this year. The other 2 road games, they're 0-2. And TCU's defense is bad on the road. 27.5 points per game against on the road? Are you kidding me? The Jekyll and Hyde nature of TCU home versus road, a little similar to Alabama. The difference is that TCU has nowhere near the talent of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, they're going to a West Virginia team that they're way better at home, and a TCU team that is much worse on the road. So now you have a West Virginia team that's averaging 30 points per game at home, a TCU defense that is allowing 27.5 points per game on the road. You don't need my metrics to tell you that this is going to be a close game. You don't need me to tell you. But I am telling you, my projected score for this game is TCU to win 32-24, which means the Mountaineers, West Virginia, will cover the 15.5 points tomorrow in college football. One final note for you guys before I get to the NFL. I think one of the bigger stories about college football this year, when we look back on it, when the year is over and in years to come, is going to be there was a lot of people who had incorrect assumptions and projections about quarterbacks. And I'm one of them, okay? And I'll get to the quarterback that I was wrong the most about in a minute. But there's a lot of people who looked at Arch Manning. There's a lot of people who looked at Carson Beck. There's a lot of people who looked at Lenore Sellers. There's a lot of people who looked at a lot of these young quarterbacks and they made assumptions, right? Rocco Becht is another one. Dylan Raiola of Nebraska is another one. There were a lot of expectations of these young quarterbacks that this was going to be the year of the quarterback, right? And frankly, a lot of these guys have not lived up to expectations. And frankly, if it wasn't for Mateer breaking his hand, he'd probably be the front runner for the Heisman. Right now in college football, you could argue that the best quarterbacks in college football are guys that nobody picked as preseason Heisman guys or preseason all SEC or all big. No, it's not who we thought it was. It's Ty Simpson. It's Bear Brockmeyer. It's Dylan Pavia of UCLA. You know, these guys are having phenomenal years. And Diego Pavia of Vanderbilt. Like, these guys are the dudes right now. And there were a lot of people who thought that certain guys were going to be great. And I'm one of them. The quarterback that I was most wrong about. And, you know, maybe this is an example of why you don't buy into hype. Or maybe it's just you fall in love with a guy's traits. You know, for those who don't remember, you know, the former Giants general manager, David Gettleman, when he drafted Daniel Jones, he said, when I first saw him, I fell in love. Gettleman fell in love with his physical ability, and he didn't fall in love with him, the football player. I think that's the problem that I made with Lenore Sellers. I thought Sellers was going to be a guy at South Carolina who could be like a Garcia back in the day. You know, for those who don't remember, Garcia was a quarterback at South Carolina. He was like this clutch quarterback. He was a phenomenal athlete. He would have all these fourth quarter comebacks. I thought Sellers had that intangible in him. And frankly, Sellers looks like a guy who doesn't know what he's doing half the time. And I don't know how they chalked it up to, but it's been really sad. Some other quarterbacks around college football who have been great disappointments, you know, Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, DJ Lagway at Florida. There's a lot of quarterbacks who are not playing well in college football. And I think that's going to consider moving forward, that the evaluations of these quarterbacks need to change. We got to stop only judging these guys on their physical tools and start judging them on their ability to process information. I think that's what you're seeing with Taylor Green of Arkansas. You have a young man who is phenomenally physically gifted. Say that with Trinidad Chambliss of Ole Miss or a Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. These young men are so good at processing information and making quick decisions. I think that is where we need to start evaluating these quarterbacks more. Julian Sain is a great example of this too at Ohio State. I think Julian Sain I don't think he's ahead of where we thought he would be, but I think he's definitely playing a little better than some people thought he would. And guess what? It's not all because of one receiver, right? It's not all because of one young man at Ohio State. It's, you know, the whole team, right? The defense playing at a high level at Ohio State. And the skill position players have really stepped up around the quarterback for Ohio State. And Julian Sain is doing a great job down there. That's right. We're over there. He's west of where I'm sitting. The larger point is, I think that's one of my big takeaways from college football, which is there's been a gross misevaluation of quarterbacks. And now look around the NFL right now. There is a very, very low number of up-and-coming quarterbacks in the NFL. Because if you're not a bona fide starter, you stink, basically. And a lot of these guys, unless their coach is Kevin O'Connell or I can't even say Shane Steichen, because Shane Steichen's kind of like a hit or miss, but like Kevin O'Connell, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Sean Payton over there in Denver with Bo Nix. If you don't have a coach like that in your ear and you have not developed enough as a quarterback, you have not evolved enough, you're basically doomed. Like, look at what's happening right now with Kyler Murray in Arizona. Look at what's happening with guys like, dagnabbit, what's his name? Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland. Let's use them as an example. Let's also look at what's going on with the Jets. Every Jets quarterback, right? Look what happened with Drake May before we got Josh McDaniels and now that he has him. Having the right coach matters in football. And we are now seeing that there are so few quarterbacks coming from college to the NFL who are capable of processing information, who are not capable of doing the proper pre-snap, post-snap reads. They don't have the clock in their head. They're saying it's 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. When you get through Mississippi, the ball has to be out of your hand or else. They don't throw the ball. They panic. They're like Jalen Hurts, and they just hold the ball for deal. They have a stranglehold in the football because they're afraid to make a mistake. Or if you have a quarterback who is not risk averse, you get a guy like Carson Wentz. Or you get a risk averse quarterback and you get a guy like CJ Stroud who looks lost half the time. And I'm not trying to throw Jalen Hurts under the bus. Hurts has a huge problem with post-snap reading. And this is something that's been pointed out by a lot of people who are smarter than me. The Brian Baldingers of the world, the Dan Orlovskis of the world. A lot of these guys have said that Hurts is not very quickly, he doesn't process very quickly post-snap. I've seen Chase Daniel talk about this on his YouTube channel. It's the idea that the quarterback has to be as efficient at reading the defense before the snap and after the snap in order to have success in the NFL. And I think at times Hurts looks like he's not processing fast enough. It's almost like you see the steam coming out of his head. But the difference is that Jalen Hurts is such a hyper-competitive athlete. He is such a, I want to get better, I want to evolve, I want to learn, that you're seeing now this is the best year of his career against the blitz. He is better now than he's ever been against the blitz. The problem is the other quarterbacks are not developing around the NFL. They're not evolving. They're not growing. And so you're seeing guys fail or come up short, shall we call it, like a Kyler Murray, right? You see a guy like Michael Penix Jr. You see guys like Justin Fields get shuffled from team to team to team, right? You see some of these guys and you realize that, wow, the Bengals had the trade for a 40-year-old quarterback because the backup for Joe Burrow was just that bad. The Steelers have done such a bad job at drafting and developing young quarterbacks. They had to bring in Russell Wilson 1 year and Aaron Rodgers the next. And now you have an entire crop of young quarterbacks coming up through the system in college. And you're looking around and you're being like, Carson Beck, Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier. Are these guys going to make it in the NFL? I don't know. I really don't know. All right, to the NFL, speaking of that, we are 41-30 on the year. We are trying to improve that record here of the Football Friday show presented by Tropicana Atlantic City in the Gridiron Pit. We will be there tomorrow for Hanging with Hennig, 12 to 3 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN. Let's start in the NFL. Bears at Ravens. Speaking of top-tier athletic quarterbacks, I got the over 49.5. It looks like Baltimore is going to have Lamar Jackson. I know he's listed as questionable, but he's practiced all week. It seems like coming out of the bye week, they're going to have him back on the field. So I'm going to go with the over 49.5 as long as Lamar plays. If Lamar doesn't play, just take the Bears outright 6.5. If Lamar plays, you can take both. And here's why. My projected score for the game with Lamar, if he plays, is 28-27. If Lamar doesn't play, I have the Bears winning 31-21. Here's why. Baltimore has the worst scoring defense in the NFL. And now they welcome a Bears offense that has scored 25 points or more in 4 straight games. And if Lamar is back this week, this should be a shootout with 2 dynamic quarterbacks with a unique set of skills. Not just because of their running ability. You could argue that Lamar Jackson and Caleb Williams have 2 of the best pure arm talents in all the NFL. Like if you were to rank the top 10 pure arm talents, right? You got guys like Mahomes, you got Justin Herbert, you got Joe Burrow, but you also got to throw in there Lamar Jackson, Caleb Williams, Josh Allen. You got to throw in there a whole group of players that just have like Matthew Stafford, just pure arm ability, right? The ability to make these crazy, unique passes that, most quarterbacks cannot make. And Caleb Williams and Lamar Jackson are in that category. The difference is Lamar's got MVPs, and Caleb Williams is still growing and ascending as a quarterback. But I think this will be a high-scoring game as long as Lamar plays. I think overall the Bears cover the 6.5 points. A game I will think is not going to be as high-scoring. 49ers, Texans, everyone is injured. I don't mean that sarcastically. The Texans have ruled out, they're not even playing, wide receivers Christian Kirk and Nico Collins, two of the best receivers for the Texans. The 49ers could have no Ricky Pearsall in this game. They are down multiple receivers for San Francisco. I like the under 41.5 this game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. My projected score is 20-17 because the Texans, without two of their best receivers and the worst offensive line in the NFL, have basically no one for C.J. Stroud to throw to. And now you got a guy in Stroud who 2 years ago looked like the next up-and-coming quarterback in the NFL. His offensive talent has gotten worse around him every year. The coaching around him has gotten worse every year. And this is not an overt indictment of DeMeco Ryans. I think he's a great leader of men. I think he'd be a fine NFL coach. But Nick Caserio has got to stop being an idiot. The GM of the Texans. You got a bad offensive line. And you trade away your best offensive line in Laramie Tunsil. Why? Why? You know your quarterback needs better offensive line help. You know your quarterback needs better receiver help. And you don't help him. Why? And then you hire anyone who might have coached in football to be the quarterback coach and the offensive coordinator. What? The Texans are so poorly mismanaged right now. I don't understand how Caserio has a job. I really don't. But I digress. The pick is under 41.5. 49ers, Texans. 49ers have not scored more than 26 points in any game this season, and the Houston defense has allowed the fewest points in the NFL this year, 14.7 points per game against. So even if we just go by the numbers, right? 49ers, 26. Not scoring 26 in this game. Texas defense is legit. It's the only thing they're getting right down there in Houston is defense. That's why I say I can't blame DeMeco Ryans for everything. A game back to the scoring end of the spectrum. Bills, Panthers over 46.5. Buffalo lost 2 games for their bye week, and I expect them to come out refocused, ready to get back to scoring 30-plus points a game like they were the first 4 games of the season. On the flip side, I understand 37-year-old Andy Dalton is starting in place of Bryce Young. But Carolina is still playing a Bills defense that's allowing 22.8 points per game against. A Bills defense that is porous against a veteran-savvy quarterback who knows the offense very, very well down in Carolina. I think this would be a lot of points on the board. My projected score is 25-24 is my projected score, and that is over the 46.5. Speaking of high-scoring games, a game that when you initially look at it, no one's thinking over, but I'm going to tell you why you got to look over. Jets at Bengals over 44.5. These are 2 teams with poor defense. It typically equals a high-scoring game, right? But the problem is the Jets' offense has scored 17 points in the last 2 games total. And now their head coach, Aaron Glenn, is like, I'm not going to tell you who the starting quarterback is. You'll have to find out like everybody else. Like, what is going on in New York? I mean, the owner has come out and he has said that, we have bad quarterback play. It's like, well, Woody Johnson, you're the one approving us to sign these guys. So, I don't know. The Jets are such a mess. It's really, really ridiculous. Here's what we do know for a fact. Joe Flacco and the Bengals offense is going to score points. We know at least one team will score points on Sunday. So, even if, look, the over-under is 44.5. The Bengals can go out there and score 35, and the Jets can score 14, and you cover the spread easily. I mean, my projected score for this game is 30-20. So, I don't even know if the Jets score 20. But the Bengals defense is really bad. And I know that Trey Hendrickson is questionable to return, but I don't know if you guys saw the story today. Apparently, the linebacker Logan Wilson, who the majority of football fans have never heard of. He's demanding a trade out to Cincinnati. Like, who is... I mean, literally a dude that most people have never heard of is like, I went out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. Like, how does that even work? Like, how does that conversation go? I would love to know. Like, does Logan Wilson have anybody in his life to be like, hey, man, dude, what are you doing? Why are you demanding a trade? Nobody knows who you are. I mean, I know who he is, but I'm a football geek. You know, I love sports. You know, I'm called the sports geek for a reason on 97.3 ESPN. Like, I know who Logan Wilson is. He's a phenomenal linebacker. But, like, most people have no idea who he is, and now the guy's demanding a trade. Like, that's how bad things are in Cincinnati. That the defense, the offense is fine. The defense is a dumpster fire. It's the flip side issue with the Jets. They don't even have a quarterback. The Jets don't have a quarterback. The Bengals don't have a defense. Yeah, give me the over 44.5. All right, 2 more NFL games before we get out of here. Titans at Colts, team total over 31. Now, this is an example of where you have to take the analytics with a grain of salt. Because the analytics say this game is going to be 31-16. The formula is not always right. If it was, I would get every one of these picks right. I wouldn't be 63%. I would be like 90%. So again, sometimes you got to look at the formula and say, timeout. Let's put it aside. Let's get real football guy conversation. The Indianapolis Colts scored 31 points or more in 5 of their last 7 games this year. When they played the Titans the first game, it was in Tennessee. The Colts scored 41 points in that game. Now it's in Indianapolis. So for me, I'm looking at this as a game with trends, right? I'm looking at this from a football perspective, not an analytical perspective. I'm saying I got a Colts team that is the number one since the NFL. I have a Tennessee team that is struggling to even play football right now. I think it's a pretty safe assumption the Colts are going to score a lot of points in this game. And even though the formula, the analytics formula that I use only has them scoring 31 points, I'm still taking over 31 points for the team total for the Colts because I think at the end of the day, the formula we already know is not 100% right. And sometimes you just got to say, look, you got a Colts team that scores a lot of points. You got a Tennessee team that can't really stop anybody. It's a pretty simple equation to me. Final NFL game. And this is a very interesting game because I actually came into this with a completely different perspective on the game before I started doing the research. Packers and Steelers. The Aaron Rodgers facing his old team again. The over-under is 45.5. I originally thought this was going to be a lower scoring game. But when I ran the numbers, started doing more research about these teams, I realized that these are two teams that are very different than what they were when they started the season. The Steelers had a big-time scoring first week, and a couple of weeks was low scoring. Now they've ramped up again. The Packers are a team that started the year blazing hot, took a dip, and now have ascended. The Steelers are averaging almost 25 points per game in their last 4 games. The Packers have been one of the most inconsistent teams in all the NFL, but Josh Jacobs is playing like one of the best running backs in the NFL. Josh Jacobs, his 8 rushing touchdowns are the second best in the NFL. And now you're going to get the Steelers defense that is allowing 4.4 rush yards per game. That's bottom 10 in the NFL. Green Bay scored at least 27 points in their last 3 games, each of the last 3 games. So if we're going off of the fact that these teams are on an upswing offensively, right? You have 2 teams that are scoring more recently than earlier in the year. So now you got to kind of like bring it back to the middle. My projected score for this game, 25-23. That is over the 45.5 for the Packers and the Steelers. And that is our final pick for the Football Friday picks. Don't forget all lines. All numbers are presented to you by Caesars Sportsbook, the only sportsbook app offering you Caesars rewards. Bet on gridiron action and earn picks on every game like hotel stays, bonus bets, game tickets, and more. Download the app using my promo code Radio20X and place your first bet of $1 or more for a chance to double your winnings on your next 20 bets. Now, this is open to new users in New Jersey only. 21 or older. Max bet of $25 for boosted winnings. Max additional winnings, $2,500 per bet. Profit boost tokens expire 14 days after receipt. See Caesars.com/promos for full terms. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, thanks everybody for watching. I don't see any comments online, but then again, it is midnight, so I'm assuming everyone is half tired watching this anyway. 12 hours from now, I'm going to be at Tropicana Atlantic City, Gridiron Pit. We'll be giving away prizes. We're going to have a great show tomorrow. 97.3 ESPN FM is streaming live right here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig, X, YouTube. Thanks to all of you for watching, whether you're watching it live, whether you're watching it later. I appreciate everybody who tunes in the show every week. We are building this thing from the ground up. I know that the inconsistent times of the show has been a bit of a problem, but we're going to rectify that in the future. Like I said, I'm doing 100 things. I'm doing it all by myself. I have no help. So thanks to all of you who tune in, the loyal viewers, the loyal listeners to me over the years on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig signing out. Have a great night, everybody, and I'll catch you tomorrow from the Tropicana in Atlantic City for Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN.